Hello viewers, I'm SB and welcome back to Progress Town here in Last Call BBS, where I'm just doing a great job all the time. 100% of the time. All the time. This was a really easy solve, actually. Just instead of having eject be firing constantly whenever the thing is 0, have eject fire on the stack command as long as the counter's at 0. My brain was pretty fried on this puzzle by the time we got to the end of it last time. That's what I'm blaming. So if we run it now, it should just work, right? Yeah. The thing decreases. Actually, I set this up and then started recording, and I didn't really think about the fact that I'm kind of a little surprised this is working because... Oh, no. It's because I rewired the counting, too. I was going to say, on the final placement of the food, the last decrement command is running at the same time as the check for ejection. So actually that shouldn't have worked, but that's right. I took out the step where I was adding the extra +1 on start because I no longer needed it to hold the tray in place. So because of that, the final decrement is actually taking the machine from 0 to -1, which, yeah, okay. Everything's fine, obviously. Is this the best machine anybody's ever built for this purpose? Probably. I don't see how we could claim that it's not. There's a really easy way to do this, and I do not know what it is. It's fine. This is better. This is an improvement. I don't remember what our previous scores were. I wish so it shows you the update, right? It shows you like the number changing to other number usually when you do this, but I guess I would have had to, perhaps we would have had to run it once in the old state. Or no, that's right. This is a new solution, quote unquote new solution. So yeah, we went from 149 to 68. I did reduce the cost by like 25%, by like 27%. In fact, it's really easy to measure when the original cost is 100K. Anyway, maybe we'll come back and do better on that one. I just out of curiosity, where am I? I'm probably like in the pool on the easier ones, right? Yeah. Ooh, although there is a faster solution to this wine one that people have figured out. This was very bad, but extremely functional. So yeah, there's something that a lot of people have grasped here that I clearly have not, and that's a little embarrassing. But I'm down here in the soda trenches at least. Okay, Rosie's Donuts. Let's take a real look at this thing. So, once again, plain donuts, fried, put in the box. Chocolate donuts, frosted, then sprinkled, then put in the box. And berry, it's very hard to believe that icing is berry flavored. Pink donuts, frosted, sprinkled, put in the box. Okay, these look legitimately very good to me. I'm going to be distracted while working. And then we have to run a counter, but like that's fairly straightforward. We've done a lot of this thing now. Right, like this is approximately the solution to that problem. Okay. I should probably have like a plan before I lay out the thing. So this is just a belt section that can be right before the boxing, right? Because we just don't fire it if we don't need to fire it. Is that how this works? There's no instructions for these ones. But yeah, it has a command, so I assume it has to be fired on the cycle where this thing's moving through, or else the donut will not get sprinkled, which is usually preferable. Okay, I do need a fryer though. How much fry do we need? Oh, right, you do have to actually make the dough come out. Okay, 2 cycles of frying. So, I mean, honestly, this might even be right. All right, so fryer. Very easy here. I guess we're already in multi-mixer territory with the start. Okay, so on start, dispense with the dough. Put a +1 on here. Right, that fence post's right, doesn't it? Nope. I'm never sure if I'm always like, is this gonna happen before or after the decrement? And I could just like think it out. But also I could press the button and just see what happens. That's called professionalism. All right, so these are necessarily coding, right? Anything that goes through is getting the coding. So how do I route this? There have to be 3 paths. I mean, is it just everything comes right through? And like there's a, so actually I probably want this to be more like this. There is a go straight through path. And by go straight through, I mean go this way. So I need, yeah, sorry, I also need to place the sorter. 3 directional outputs. It's almost like it was made for this puzzle. Okay, right? So, oh, but it's not, sorry, we're not firing the dough thing on start. We're firing the dough thing on, yeah, all of this logic is contingent. I wish I could I wish I could box select bits of logic. Okay, all of this logic is contingent on the number of donuts. So I guess actually here, well, this stuff can live directly under the start. Maybe not directly because the wires will make the displays hard to read, but like here should be good, right? Yeah, that should be fine. Okay. So yeah, dough dispensing is always part of the thing. As is the frying, as is the, yeah. Okay. So this is a fryer, this is a piece of fryer logic. This is 100%. I mean, this actually can just be out of the way because this is completely self-contained. Let's just get that out of there. And then in theory, this is enough, right? When this thing zeros, it fires the eject command on the stacker. Yeah, I think coming at it with that classic confidence. Okay, so I don't know that I need this yet. Hold on. Let's rig up some of the logic. I don't need to figure the whole thing out right now. It'll probably be easier if we just start doing it. All right, so we're gonna go 2 cycles in, catch the thing and immediately spit it out. It's like on the stack command. On the stack command, we execute the decrement, but also we gotta do a bunch of other stuff. So there's definitely a, let's get these out of the way. I'm just gonna try to keep the logic, you know, geographically sorted here. So on the stack command, we fire the decrement. Might be better to have this over here, just again for the sake of clarity of the readouts. But we also got to do a bunch of other things. There's going to be a conditional here. On stack, as long as this value is still positive, we need to put out more dough. So the stack causes the decrement. If the number's still positive, we put out more dough. And then from there, this logic all takes over. And there's nothing coming out of here except donuts. And we don't have to deal with any mixed 6s or dozens. They're all the same type. So is that actually all of the logic? Decrement, emit more dough. And then like also when stack, if 0, eject, right? If we have made enough, if we have put in enough donuts, eject. That's a 12, right? That's a 12. Okay. This is pretty not ideal. If I put this wire in the second spot, it's a little clearer. If I do this, it's fine. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So this is still pretty readable if I tuck all this stuff in the corner out of the way. Yeah, cool. Okay, so if the number's still positive, we need more donuts. If the number remaining is positive, that's what this is. If the number is 0, then yeah, we're good. Okay. That's a little better. All right, so if the number remaining is positive, there's a timing issue here though, huh? I have to sprinkle them individually, right? It's not good enough to, yeah, okay. It's not good enough to put them all in the box and then just fire the sprinkle machine over top of the open box. Listen, there's frosting, there's icing on the side. Okay. Fine then. Okay, so there's a couple of different ways we could do this. I could redesign this belt so that the timing on the donuts is consistent. Right now, a problem that we are going to have is that chocolate donuts and quote-unquote berry donuts come through the belt, or will come through the candy machine a different number of cycles from leaving the sorter, which means we could not use a simple timer to just sprinkle them. However, we could retime this. The other thing we could do is we could have like a catch right here. I don't know, like a sorter or something that when it senses starts a sequencer or something. It's pretty not ideal. Also, it does strike me that this is actually not optimal. There we go. That adds an extra, that doesn't actually even, yeah, that doesn't add a cycle to these donuts, to the plain donuts, but it does remove 2 cycles from the trip of the frosted donuts because they don't have to go up and then back down. So that's a better route right there. Obviously, it would be best if we could have things dump off here. I mean, well, I was going to say I kind of could do that, couldn't I? But because of the fact that we're so close to the top of the screen here. Well, so if I moved the whole assembly up one by moving everything to all the way to the side, hold on, this can be the case. All right, let's move all these pieces over. We delete all the normal belt bits. You're not coming along just yet. But we can, if I do this as our starter, right? We can actually get these a lot closer. And actually, if we run it like this, because I do need to have... We don't need to have a reuniting step. But if we do have a reuniting step, like if I do route it like this, then now all frosted donuts are coming through at the same number of cycles from the initial sort. And so when the sorter shoves them off, it can also start a timer that just fires the sprinkle machine at the right moment. and the plain donuts that come through, we'll just have a value set for if they are plain, and or we'll have a value set for if they are not plain, and if they are not plain, then the candy machine fires at the appropriate moment. And so we don't have to build in any kind of sensory logic up here. We can just run a timer. Okay, I like that idea. Let's go ahead and just do that now, I guess. Let's just wire that up so I don't forget. So it turns out I am going to need a complicated start command, right? Well, I guess there's a couple of ways that we could do this, right? The idea is we have a value that tells us whether the thing, when 0, thing is not plain. So there are a couple of different ways we could handle that. We could have this, right, when Choco or Berry, so yeah, not this, but if Choco and if Berry offset the -1, and then we have to run the timer off of the sorter, and the timer could be a sequencer, or it could be a counter with the decrement thing. But when we'll make it a sequencer right now for clarity. A sequencer is more expensive than a small counter, but if we were going to have to run... Yeah, I don't know if it'll end up being cheaper to do it this way or not. So, upon sense, it just does some logic, right? I'm gonna put down a multi-mixer as a sort of a visual stand-in for some logic. And then at the bottom of this process, it does the left or right or through. And under the correct circumstances, we start the sequencer and it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But that's actually the 5th block on the sequencer, right? Because it takes one round for it to start up, I think. So we'll leave this something like this, that I remember what my plan was, and then we'll come back to it once we actually have the sorting logic figured. Okay. In theory, we've got counting logic. We got a block of counting logic over here. Now we have to do the sorting logic coming out of the this thing, figuring out what path the donuts have to take. So when the donuts are plain, how do I want to do this? Obviously, there's the sentinel value thing, which we could put together in a kind of a complicated way. The fact that the counters only have room for 2 conditional outputs does make doing 3 different things a little bit complicated. We don't have a lot of ability to sense, like, if thing. So a way we could do it, I suppose, a way we could do it is to have a machine somewhere that's just staring at the box and constantly firing conditionals. That's weird, though. Is that really doable? Because the information is written on the box. So if we have like a sorter that just holds the box for a while, and we're running a scanner off of it, we could have 3 different enable multimixers, each one of them enabled by the scanner under different circumstances. Right, because yeah, the scanner does this thing. So it's like, yeah, so this thing would be pushing constantly in one direction or the other based on what the box says on it. I mean, it adds a bunch of cost, which I don't love. The scanner's $20,000 by itself, And we're looking at an extra sorter then because we got to hold the box. You could also do this with a stacker. They're functionally identical, but the stacker is twice as much, so we would use a sorter for it. Is there a better way to run the logic? I mean, yes, of course there is. Can I figure out a better way to run the logic? So we have effectively in the multimixers, we have OR gates and we have AND gates. We don't have XOR gates, which is the thing that we kind of need here. Because, you know, it's complication. Huh. All right, let me build the version of this that I'm thinking of that doesn't work, just to have it in front of me so I can see if there's a tweak. So the idea would be like, right, there's a +1 sentinel, a 0 sentinel. You'd be like, when plain, do this. When, well, I guess a way we could handle it. It could be handled by having them be having it be two separate sorters, right? The plane gets, you do the fry, then you do a sorter that using one of these kicks the plain donuts down one path and the donuts that need to be frosted to a second sorter, which then hits them to here or there, I guess. It feels bad, though. It feels like I should be able to figure this out. All right. Because right now, we already have a thing that is like, if not plain, fire command. So like, what if it's plain, you increase the value, or if it's not plain, the value increases. And then connected to the sort functionality, we have an enable. Yeah, when sort this thing enabled by this counter being positive. Yeah, no, this is totally how we do it. Because no, well, this then needs to run to another piece of logic that either fires the left or right command. Or if 0, just go ahead and kick it straight through. Right? Okay. So, yeah, then this has to run to another piece of logic. So how do we do that? We're going to need some more multi-mixers, shockingly. It's going to be like... So hold on. We're going to set up another one of these counters. Okay, I need a pair of normal multi-mixers. Okay. So here's the thing. Choco and Berry actually do have different instruction sets. They both do need to run into here, for sure. But also, Choco is a +1. Is this Choco? Berry is a +1. So then we do a positive enabled router for so this happens when sense gets fired. Berry is left and Choco is right. But I need So this is the thing that's called when sense occurs. Here's the problem. Fucking ran out of inputs. That's gonna have to output twice. So yeah, here and here. Okay. Shall we? I think this is all solid-ish. Nobody's outputting the dough. When is this actually getting called? It's getting called off of stack. Well, it has to get called once on start and also once on stack. Well, actually, it needs to get called one cycle after start because the math has to happen first, I think. In any case, that's going to require an additional multi-mixer. So right? Stack and start both call this instruction, which I have to increase all my numbers by 1 if I don't want to rewire this, and I don't, because now I'm calling a -1 on the stacker or the counter right away. It will also call exert dough, put out the dough. It'll also call eject on the stacker if the value is 0, which it isn't, so that's fine. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, that's a problem. Because the number on this counter is not yet above 1, is not yet positive, it's not calling make dough. So we do just have to call make dough no matter what at the start. I guess I just run a different, yeah, okay. I'm being silly. This is the make dough output. Do this. Also just run the start directly to that. Just make dough at start. Don't do a whole silly thing. And then I'm just going to rewire this. This will work just fine. And then because we're no longer calling the decrement on start, we can decrement these all manually. There we go. The initial value on the fryer is not getting set. Where was that logic? Here. I forgot to... We do in fact need that start multi-mixer. Because we do have to do this. But we also have to set the +2 on the fryer. Otherwise, that donut ain't gonna fry. But... Wait, I think I'm... Hold on a second. This has to get set every time we do the emit command. So actually, that's where that needs to come from. Yeah, every time we put dough out, that counter has to get set to 2. Okay, so this is a plain donut. Is the thing actually receiving multiple inputs simultaneously? It certainly shouldn't be. Okay, what's the problem here? This is happening, which is correct and should be happening. This is getting called too, though. Shouldn't this not be getting called unless... Oh, that's right. I made this second multi-mixer, but this needs to be enabled by the number being positive. And in fact... Hold on. These are supposed to be coming out of here. Here's the problem. I forgot that I already created this multi-mixer. Right? Yeah, this cable and this cable, we're trying to do the same thing. Okay. Back to it. I'm much better at debugging than I am at writing code. Okay, that just goes on through. Cool. Sprinkles never get called. Never mind. Sprinkles totally get called. Why, though? Because, yeah, this sure is running from the fucking sensor. Well, okay. I need you to run when this thing fires. right? This is the, yeah, that's the donut decision maker. Okay. That's right. I forgot that was placeholder logic and I wasn't doing the placeholdering. The eject didn't fire because I fence posted wrong. Right, yeah, the checks are wrong because this needs to, these all of these numbers need to be one lower. Which is to say that we don't even need the initial. Yeah, stack fires, right. Right. I'm not zero indexing my stacks mentally. This cable's not even necessary. These need to come down. That doesn't change the cables. I don't think we pay for. So I don't think that changes the cost of the solution. Deleting that cable is of no value. We could have just set the input to 0. Okay, so this time it should do 6 donuts and they should all function the same as that last one. Is the stacker gonna fix this problem for us? Oh, wait. Oh, right. This fires on the same frame that it ejects. So at the end of a donut cooking, this is set to -1. Okay, that's fine. We can fix that. Right? Yeah. Okay, so this could really be up here. I'm gonna need some space down here is all I'm thinking. So this is all logic for that stuff up there. I'm gonna move these over because I want, this is part of the self-contained fry unit. So this thing's gotta have a reset behavior, right? It's gonna, as things stand right now, it's going to end up at -1. So when it hits 0, it ejects. But I also needed to do something else. When it hits 0, it also needs to fire both of its other inputs simultaneously. So do eject, also do this, also do this. Yeah, fuck it, whatever, it's fine. So here's the -2. Here's the +2. Here's the -1. So on sense, run a -1. There we go. So, okay, 0. Then on the eject frame, it goes to -1, but that should run. Oh, right, but the -1's already running. And it won't double run. Complicated. It won't double run the signal. So what I could do instead is just change this out for a larger counter that has a reset value on it. I guess I added like a bunch of logic here. The solution for fixing this is actually $1,000 more expensive than it would just be to use a better counter that makes the extra multi-mixers unnecessary. Yeah, that's true. Okay, let me fix this wiring then. We're gonna kill this, put this back down here for the moment. Delete, delete, delete. Get me the proper counter. So this has a +2 and a -1, but it also has a +1. Okay. So the 0 on this gets wired to eject. The sense gets wired to the -1. This gets wired to the +2. Actually, I still need a multi-mixer, I think. Because the 0 has to fire the +1 and also the eject simultaneously. So actually these end up being the same cost. This one takes up less space though. Right, so you do eject, but you also reset the value on the fry machine. In theory. Okay, yeah, so that comes out at... We reset the value on the fry machine, But because this is a conditional, not an instruction, it resets the value on the fry machine to 0, and then because we have a read of 0, it kicks the it kicks it up one more time. That's problematic. It needs to run that instruction exactly once. So on 0, this is not a good way to do this, but what I do like about it is that it will probably work. It will probably work. On 0, eject, and also fire this sequencer, right? Because it'll do the 0 thing, and then it'll be left at -1. So we just like fire this sequencer in a couple of cycles, add one time. Okay, so that gets to -1. In a couple of cycles, you do the reset. But right, because we're resetting to 0, it's actually a huge issue. So this gets passed through at exactly that moment. So the reset has to be... Yeah, I can't use 0 both as this thing going to 0, both as the eject command and the startup command for this, because the way we've got this thing wired up, 0 has to be the state that it's in a lot of the time. Right, so right now, it's not even going to matter on the 1 donut. The 1 donut will just ship. But on the 2s, we're going to see this machine act a little bit funny. Yeah. I guess you could just fire a manual stop. Okay. So what we do is we time it so that it stops itself. The B command can be wired to, hey, shut it off, at the exact number of cycles that it takes for the thing to get reset. Or like the moment this is positive, stop the machine. Actually, that's totally fine, right? Because that will, yeah, the moment the +2 gets set, we need this to not be running anymore. And that means I don't have to count. Yep. That gets added. Okay, this is like a really hacky way to solve this problem. But it is actually going to work, I think. Now, keep in mind, we are at 100% of our rack space used, and we have not seen any of the frosted donuts come through yet. Or iced, I guess, donuts come through yet. So this will be exciting. I am noticing that there's $1,000 that's going to waste here. Shouldn't this be wired to something? So that's the only thing that happens when there's chocolate. But aren't we enabling... Oh no, because I changed the sorting logic. Okay. So we know the machine will work fine through this. It's kind of a goofy way for it to go. All right, there we go. So first of all, I did screw up this timing. It needs to be 1 bar later. I was wrong about the startup time. I mean, that's actually working. Except, oh. Okay, we're having a problem here because this thing's not running. It needs to stop running at a certain point. So yeah, it needs to give itself a stop command after it actually does the sprinkles so that it's reset in time for the next donut, right? Now, I am totally, there's no pipelining going on here at all, right? In the sense that we make one donut completely, and then we make the next donut, and then we make the next donut. This machine could definitely be sped up if I could figure out a way to have more donuts running, like not using the a thing reaching the end of the line as the signal to start the next donut, but rather like using the stack, the movement of the sorter as the signal to start the next donut. The problem with that would be that we would then have to come up with a new way of timing the sprinkles. We would have to use an actual sensor-related sprinkle solution because there is no way for... Right now, we can only have one in X seconds drop sprinkles command running at a time. All right, anyway. Secret is out, gives it 4 stars. How are you going to give a donut 4 stars? The donut was a kind of sweetened fried dough used as a reward for or motivational tool by local rulers. And are we any better? It really makes you think. Hungry Ghost, proving their name is appropriate. 5 stars. Tasty. And then such a long ellipsis. Or I suppose many ellipses living in community, depending on how you want to parse that. And Kingfisher999 says 2 stars. Doesn't seem that hard to make these. I don't know what the big deal is. Okay. I do kind of want to solve... Here's what we're going to do. We're going to press the Make New Solution button. I do kind of... Or even actually, I might do this by copying the existing solution and then playing with it. So to pipeline the donuts... What am I doing? I would want to be in my new solution. So to pipeline the donuts, right, you'd want to run the if there's more donuts, begin to spawn them logic off of the same logic step that fires the sorter, which I guess in this case is just sensing, right? We're not using the sorter as a timing object at all. It just holds them. So you would, yeah, you would run. Where's the more dough coming from? More dough is coming from this step. So yeah, it's... Instead of running this from the stacker, how would you do this? So instead of running this from the stacker, you would run it from the sense command, right? You're going to have to figure out a different solution for your sprinkles. But then you also need to... I mean, I guess stack doesn't do anything anymore, right? Well, stack is still running the decrement. No, it's not. Yeah, stack doesn't do anything anymore. It stacks when it gets stuff, and then it ejects when it's told to by the rest of the machine. Oh, except this logic's going to be a little goofy because you're going to have this thing reach 0 while the last donut is moving. Okay, I'll figure this out. I'll play with this. On the fried side, the ancient peoples of the 20th century often stopped by the roadside on their commutes to and from their employment jobs, to enjoy this snack, consisting of a dismembered bird dipped into hot oil and seasoned with generous amounts of salt. Y'all, I woke up with a craving for Chicken Shack, and this is not helping. It's really good. It's also, bad for me and expensive, but gosh, I sure would like some Chicken Shack. All right, what's up? So they're going to ask for different parts of the bird. Coat with breading, fry, which is different amounts of time based on which bird. Oh, we have to operate the slicer too. Okay, interesting. So we will always be given an entire bird. So this is one where we can't really process the orders completely naively. which is what I prefer to do. We just have to run them in sequence. Okay, so it's like, obviously you're gonna need a slicer. So, how does this end up running? I might put all this stuff over here, actually. You're always gonna need coat, fry. Okay. So the thing is, what you're doing over here is you're running some logic that is like, if whole bird, just send it on through. Can I please? Thank you. Huh. Oh, right, because this needs to be because this needs to be a sorter. Conditionals. Yeah. If whole bird, send it on through. Although I guess actually, it is not cheaper to run a router? Oh, you know what? Based on whichever input was last activated, this is a method for sorting things into 3 lanes that is that is perhaps appropriate to our donut problem. I have a bunch of sorter logic running when we could have just run router logic. Okay, I'm going to clean that up. That's the thing I'm going to do. I'm going to try to implement the router logic solution to that next time, or between this time and next time. Apologies. I'm sure a bunch of you saw it and had feelings. Okay, so the deal here is... But actually, is a router appropriate to this problem? I guess a router's appropriate to this. Right, because we can just... If it's a whole chicken, just enable the right. And if it's... I guess the default state is through? So maybe what you want to do instead is that. Pardon. Well, I guess it doesn't end up mattering. What I want to do is have... Yeah, it doesn't really end up mattering how we do this, does it? It's going to be the same number of actual instruction pieces either way. So all of these run into here. Okay. So that goes through there. And then we're going to have to run a bunch of multi-mixers, or... There's 2 different cooking times, right? There's the full chicken, the full and half both cook for 8, while these both cook for 4. So you need another multi-mixer for the cooking timer. So many is the thing. We're going to end up with such a large number of total multi-mixers here. Am I overly reliant on these things? I don't know, maybe. Okay. So this is the half chicken output, which gives us partial chicken routing, but with full chicken cooking time. And then cutlet and leg actually are the same completely. So we may not, we'll see how this works out. But we're going to need at the very least, we're going to need a multi-mixer that represents the state that they are both in, right? Which runs to this router, although maybe it doesn't have to. But whatever. And also runs to here. And also runs to here. It's that one that runs to there. Because, like, this is always going to be in the... Yeah, this is always going to be in the through state. It's always going to be after the half chicken. Both the cutlet and leg are guaranteed to be after the half chicken. So this thing's already in the through state. But it doesn't matter whether we connect this wire or not. No, we can totally save a multimeter here. Because we don't actually need to have two inputs to this. A multi-mixer, rather. So if we just connect that to there, this multi-mixer may end up being irrelevant, actually. Well, so like, what if we wanted to use the simple thing? Right, so this is just, this sets the value on the cook timer. This sets the value on this cook timer. And we do like, we do one less because the eject phase will, the eject command will be processed while there is still a cook cycle happening, right? So since, I guess actually, do these need to be, these might have to be the bigger counters. Because like the one really easy way to do the logic here is we only run the decrement command off of an enable multiplexer or a multi-mixer that is looking at whether the value on the thing is positive in the first place. But I'm wondering if I could make this like a, this is a +4 and this is a +3. It always runs the 1. And then depending on whether or not this value is 0, it either ejects at that moment or it runs this one. We might be able to rig that up. So yeah, what if this is the extra cook time? Okay, so on sense, decrement here, and then we use an enabler. We use an AND gate. So when this is 0, if this is also 0, eject. I need another multi. Because I need this to be the enabler, but I also need the 0 state on this thing to fire eject when it is reached if it wasn't reached before. But the problem is, if this is just a spare counter that is not used in this, if this is set as 0 when we're trying to cook a cutlet or a leg, obviously running this would make the thing spit out before it has cooked at all. So that's maybe not actually a real answer. How about this? When this is 0, what I want to do is 0 enable the reduction in this thing. If this counter is 0, then do the reduction here. But as we have things set up right now, well, no, it should be, these will be set at the same time. They're both getting set by the initial command. So there is no time before the cook where this is 0. This thing will only be 0 when this has run out completely. Okay, so we're gonna need, let me change the logic up here. Okay. If this thing's 0, enable this, which does the decrement here. And also, if they are both 0, we do an eject. Only when they are both 0 do we do an eject. So when this hits 0, enabled by this being 0, we do an eject. Classic AND gate. This is what an AND gate usually looks like. Okay. I think that's solid fry logic. And this isn't even necessary. Get this noise out of here. Okay. I think that'll handle that. I did not produce the chicken. Oh, right. But sorry, this is not going to be... I'm running this all based on like this assumption that when the thing starts, we will process the 4 orders off of... We'll process 1 order as fry a whole chicken. And then when the second order comes, we'll cut that chicken in half, and then we will... we'll send half of it off to get fried, and we'll still have the other pieces. Well, I guess this is... No, this is fine. The default state of this is through. So actually, we never even need to call this, right? Because right now, yeah, the default state of this is through, and it only gets called to write if whole chicken. And with the beginning of each new order, this resets. So yeah, I think for right now, all we need for routing this thing is go right if it says whole chicken. Otherwise, go on through and process. Okay, so once we have process, how does this work? The cutlet is what goes straight through. The leg comes out here, the half chicken comes out there. And I don't get a... No, there's no command logic at all. Right now, this is sufficient. We'll see if that remains the case. On start, produce the chicken. So we know we're going to need 2 waste baskets, right? Because we can't hold objects between orders. So anytime we slice a chicken, we're throwing away 2 of the chunks. Chunks is a very appetizing word for this circumstance. I'm trying to imagine the belting situation in my head here. So like, we need some logic that manages what goes where. How do I wire this up? Okay, what I want is a sorter. Do I want a sorter? Do I want a router? Okay, so what I'm thinking here is that the deal is just going to be based on whatever this was. We route all 3 of the chicken pieces to the same sorting thing, and then we do logic at the sorting thing as to what goes into the 2 waste bins. This is a horrible way. It's a horrible way to use a bird. Right, we do logic as to what goes into the 2 waste bins and what goes that way. I'm gonna have to mess with all of the spacing here, but you get like the basic idea. I don't know how we're gonna, I guess just move this whole logic bit down. And also over. right? Because it's like, I guess each belt is money, so in theory it would be better if I did this a little bit differently. We can run this right here, and it works just fine. Yeah. Okay. And this is good because the 3 chicken pieces will always approach the sorter in the same order. So a thing we can do off of these, and a place where the leg and the cutlet are going to end up needing their own multi-mixers, is we fire a different sequence of sorter commands off of a sequencer for each of them. And I think the way I've got this designed, it actually is going to have to be 3 sequencers. Yeah. Okay. Is this evidence of a failure on my part? I don't know. Probably. So the thing is, we actually do need a multi-mixer that is both of these pieces to set that value. Or, do we? That value literally always gets set. Okay. No, those are right. I still need those. I have to multi-mix the start command is all. Because please do dispense a chicken. Also set the base fryer time. Okay. I'm gonna leave this situation where there's one multi-mixer for each type of chicken output, and then we will see about whether any of them can be safely removed. So on a whole or a half, add 4 seconds to the counter. This would be 1 counter easily. I'm so eager to try to use like 2 different counters to be clever. This should absolutely just be a counter, right? Yes. What am I doing? What am I doing? Right, and it's a plus 4. Sorry, not that. And a +3 that runs off of start, and then a -1 that runs from the sensor, and on 0, just eject it, and that removes so many different different multi-mixers. It saves so much money to do it that way. Okay, fine. All right, so the chicken comes out and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So on cycle 6, in theory, the slicer's that's the leg. On cycle 6, the leg reaches this thing. So first things first, this is the sequencer for half a chicken. I'm going to move these all the way to the corner. Okay. This is the cycle for half a chicken. The leg is going to get there first. We can have the thing in through mode. That's easy enough. On cycle 7, the cutlet will reach it. So on cycle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we fire, I guess it can be A. I'm going to need a multi-mixer for each of these things because we have to fire them in particular. We have to potentially fire them from multiple different inputs. So this is the one arbitrarily I'm deciding that fires the left command. And then you need to fire the right command. Okay. So one thing goes through, one thing gets dumped. The final piece, which is coming out the left side of that thing, which is half of a chicken, gets instead routed to the fryer. Okay. I'm going to need a stacker. We should probably put that on here. The good news is the stacker logic this time can be really simple, I think. Okay. If it is, in fact, a cutlet, the cutlet gets there second. So we can do a through and then a right and then a left. Yeah. And then on the last one, the whole bird. Wait. No, the last one's the leg. I was going to say there's got to be one of these that starts with the thing going to the right place, right? Yeah. So on this one, we can just go ahead and fire right away because we need the first piece to go through. Then we fire. These are definitely timed wrong. Right? One of them goes through, so we don't need this multi-mixer because we only have to fire through a single time. And the other one goes to the right. Okay. Now hold on a second. So this is when the first piece reaches, right? That's the idea. So that, no, these are correct then. I think. Well, I guess we can just test it, because if all of my logical assumptions are correct here, then the machine works, right? I think this thing's actually wired up correctly now. We can remove some of these multi-mixers turn out to be unnecessary. I'm not going to mess with them until we know the machine works, because they may end up becoming necessary. Did I set the timer on the fryer correctly? No. Okay, I was wrong. These things do need... Okay. Right? Yeah, I think so. Boy, there's no visual change in the chicken at that step. I don't love that. Which is good. Okay. Now here's where it's going to get interesting. Oh! Those did not do what I was expecting them to do. Hold on, let me... Okay, so the way this actually runs is cutlet leg half. So I need to reverse these. Let me just rewire the logic entirely. Okay, so on this one, this is the half. So cutlet goes in the trash. This runs to left. Oh, this one's actually right still. We changed the order of those two things. It doesn't matter. They both go in the garbage. And then that goes to the right. Okay. Now I haven't, the timing on this is wrong, but this part's still good. We're gonna rewire the logic first. So the cutlet's ending up in front. So on this output, the cutlet output, we need... Yeah, I do just I rework these wires, right? This wire goes to here now, this wire goes to there now, and everything else is the same, except I have to adjust the timing on these. So let's get to there. Yeah, it's firing one cycle late. I need to move all of my dots up one. So let me just run that and see if that works. I'm a little concerned about how the thing's going to run if there's something in it when it's supposed to switch paths. Okay, no, it's fine. All right, so then move these up on the other ones as well. Mousing accuracy, weirdly low. Okay. I think this works. Okay, so that gets sent through. It gets cooked for eight cycles, which is correct. All right, we're good. Tremendously wasteful, but fundamentally, like, it's working. Yep. Could you not, perhaps? So this needs to... It actually needs to switch even earlier, it seemed like. Alright, so the cutlet gets shunted through. Huh. Oh, I didn't swap the correct thing because I forgot I changed the positions of these. There we go. Okay. Wow, that was a much cheaper build than most people did. I wonder what... How did most people spend all that money? Crystal Lyman says 2 stars. You get fried chicken 2 stars? I mean, it's probably not good fried chicken. I'm not seasoning it at all, so I guess that's a concern. My friend was trying to describe fried chicken as like a thing, but I couldn't imagine it. Now that I've tried it, I can confirm it sucks. Hungry Ghost, my favorite customer by a huge amount, says hell yeah. And Chris R, 4 stars, came here with my wife. My wife has a sensitive palate, but she says she enjoyed this. She, my wife, says she wouldn't mind if we came here again. I love the wife guy of the future. Hold on, we're going back to the editing bay. Can I rewire this machine to use fewer cycles? How would I do it? Because, like, it feels like I could probably, without changing too much of the logic, I could probably just redesign the way the belts are laid out. It feels like there's a lot of wasted space, doesn't it? I don't know. I can't do it quickly, and we're already over the hour, so probably we ought to just call it here. I'm gonna run this machine through again. It is so wasteful. It is so terribly wasteful. So this is just tracking the longest. It's like among all orders, whatever your longest order is this score. And that's going to be, for us, it's the half chicken. Right, both because the half chicken comes out the far side of the slicer, and because it has to navigate the whole thing and then also fry for 4 cycles longer than everything else. Could I redesign this to get it down? I mean, yeah, probably. Maybe I might be able to get us to the peak just by reorganizing my pieces here. Because, like, what if I... Okay, I'm not going to do it right now. I'm not. We're going back to the food court. What's next? Sweet Heat Barbecue. Imagine purchasing grilled meat by the pound. It wasn't imagination to the people of the 20th century, who could often be found chowing down on simple but meticulously prepared foods, such as these foodstuffs described in the Dallas Codex. All right, well, I gotta be honest with you, I would maybe prefer, like, North Carolina Codex, but to each their own. Anyway, that's going to be it for us for today. Thank you all so much for watching. I totally solved 2 entire puzzles in 75 minutes. When you come back next time, tomorrow, hopefully we'll be able to keep up that blistering pace. And we'll see you then.